Hey, it's Lee. Welcome to Business Problem Solve. Today, I have the immense pleasure of chatting with Becca Francis. Becca is an internal change person, and for 2/3 of my career, I have been an internal change person, and I found the change and the transition from internal to external quite fascinating. So, without further ado, this isn't about me. This is about Becca. So, Becca Francis, how the devil are you?
Hello, I'm really good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Thank you very much. So for those people who don't know who Becca is, who is Becca? I know she got to sit in that seat today.
So I am Becca. I think it's quite safe to say that there's only one of me, which most people will be grateful for. So yeah, I work in, so at the moment I'm in financial services. I work in kind of agility, so come from a background of projects, programs, doing things differently is what I'm passionate about. And so at the moment I'm working in terms of supporting transitions into different operating models and shaping up how we deliver change in a different way to traditional kind of methods.
Hey, exciting. So when you say different in what way?
So I'm really passionate about people, and I've always, I've loved projects. I've loved kind of getting involved in challenges. But what I found that I really enjoyed about it was actually the teams and seeing teams kind of collaborate and get their ideas together and work towards a common goal. And another passion of mine from where I started, like my first job ever in a windsurfing shop and then going into a fast food restaurant, is like customer service. And so I'm really passionate about teams and customers. And I often find quite, a lot of projects we go into and it's kind of someone's, an idea of what they want to deliver, a really well paid person that's come up with this idea. And I'm really passionate about getting teams, to basically speak to customers, getting them motivated, getting them to see the value of the stuff that they're delivering. When I kind of talk about doing it differently, it's how you motivate those teams. And I'm a great believer, if you put people first, they'll look after your customers. And, that's a great business. It delivers great outcomes. And unfortunately, it's something that I don't see as being a common thing. So yeah, it's one of my passions, definitely.
Yeah, I love that. So I fundamentally agree and believe in this. It's a people game and not a process game that we're in. And I speak about this quite a lot, but like 15, 20 years ago, consultants used to try to sell like a silver bullet to fix a particular target or metric. And then about 10 years ago, say, customer experience and customer satisfaction was a thing. Don't worry, I'm going somewhere with this. So like everybody moved from the target to the customer satisfaction. And then about 5 years ago, it was all about well-being and an employee engagement and stuff. So it was like satisfy your employees, then it's about, then they'll deliver your customer satisfaction, and then they'll deliver your business targets. So that spells like EST. And then, but what I believe now is it's about people, but leadership behaviors and people behaviors. And if you get the right behaviors, that creates the right environment for employees to then be engaged, deliver the customer's satisfaction, and then your business targets land. So I completely resonate with what you're saying. When did you realize, so with your customer service background and then you're moving into change, in fact, actually, that's a question I'm going to ask you. How did you fall into change? Did you choose change, or did change choose you?
I think change chose me. I worked for the police, and I kind of just got involved in like business transformation stuff. And again, I just had a bit of a different approach to a lot of people that I worked with, in that I would go out, I'd go and meet teams, I'd go and sit next to them, see what they were doing, I'd look at kind of customer insight and things like that. And a lot of people just valued the fact that I did that. I didn't just sit in an office and, come up with a plan or things like that. And so, yeah, I kind of got in, I just went through that kind of stage. I mean, I started, I had my children quite young, and I started in kind of doing admin jobs, and I just used to find myself challenging a lot of things, like asking why all of the time. And that was probably much to my parents' annoyance when I was a kid as well. And so that kind of continued. I was always asked why. And, you know, when I was taking on projects and stuff, I would be really interested in the bigger picture, really interested in what people actually thought about that change. So yeah, I think I just kind of fell into it. I didn't ever have that as a target, you know, as in terms of a career.
Yeah, so this inquisitive nature and this I guess people-centric approach, they've always been, have you always been a big believer in relationship and people, from the customer service background, or was that from before as well? Were you an inquisitive people lover in the early days, or is that what the customer service kind of built upon it?
I think the customer service built upon it. To be honest, I mean, I started off in a windsurfing shop on work experience, and I just loved meeting different people every day. And they kept me on as a Saturday girl, and then I kind of went into, you know, to a fast food restaurant. And to be honest, a lot of people, you know, diss that as kind of a career option, you know, but I'm a great believer that that set such a good foundation for my career, and, you know, how I think about things, how I shape ideas, that it just set a passion for me. And I think as well, being a customer, when you get infuriated by things you have to deal with, it's kind of, you know, if you get infuriated by that, how can you also do a better job yourself day to day? What's one thing you can do differently to make your own customer service good? So yeah, I think it's just ignited a passion in me.
Yeah, amazing. And so I said right at the intro, so I have been an internal change person, now an external change person, but what do you see as the biggest challenge that you face in your role, Becca, for you personally? I get, rather than, if we remove the business and the process and stuff, what's your biggest challenge?
I think the biggest challenge is that change in leadership. I think the expectations of our generation now, especially younger people, you know, everything's kind of always on. You know, you can go there, you can get the answer. They want to, you know, feel empowered. People want to know a lot more. You know, and if they're not happy, they aren't really afraid quite often to go somewhere else, whether that's a job or whether that's you as a customer. And I think a lot of, you know, how businesses operate, like you sort of said, is around the leadership that you've got. And if you don't have the right leadership, that can lead to so many other challenges, not just, you know, in the workforce, but then how you're delivering changes, the strategic objectives that they're coming up with. And personally, it's an area that I see we've still got quite a kind of Tayloristic approach to in some areas, some businesses. And I think that's in those companies that have still got that approach, they're probably quite far behind the times. And I think that's going to be a big shift for a lot of people.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Do you think they will change, or do you think people are just at a particular level doing what they've always done, so they don't need to change?
I think there will be pockets that change, and there'll be pockets that get left behind. When I talk about kind of my passions, I'm a great believer in letting people be and encouraging people to be who they are, and being authentic. And that comes from, you know, two really strong leaders that I had that enabled me to do that, which was important for me. And I think that can be really uncomfortable for some people to allow people to be, you know, who they are. And so I think there'll be definitely pockets that get left behind. And there's also quite a common theme of leadership thinking or saying the right words, but not actually knowing how to act like that, because it's maybe something that they've for years and years have been told how you manage teams and you do this, and, you know, you're used to being told what to do, and you know, you're a powerful person, you make the decisions. To suddenly letting go of those reins is really uncomfortable. And I think some people naturally will struggle on that journey.
Yeah, completely. You just mentioned the word the authentic and authenticity, and people being who they believe that they are. I've been on a bit of a personal journey, as many people have throughout their whole life, trying to answer the question, who am I type of thing, without going really too philosophical and deep. But who is Becca, and are you now authentically yourself? And how do you know?
I'm very authentically myself, and that's a strength, and it's a curse as well, I think, at times. So I was diagnosed with ADHD about a year and a half ago, but I kind of knew I was ADHD for about 3 years before that, on the back of my son's diagnosis. And throughout my life, I've kind of, like I said, I've kind of always challenged things, always asked why, but I tended to think in generally a different way to, you know, my peers or my colleagues. And sometimes that could be really difficult, because I once actually said, you know, do I talk donkey language? Because why does no one else see things the way I do? No one really gets it. And now, obviously, on the back of my diagnosis, I think it's because I've spent years, my brain is wired differently. You know, I'm affected by different things. I am more creative in different areas than maybe some other people. And it's also allowed me to understand who I am and the reason why I maybe do certain things, or think in certain ways. So one of those things is about, you know, feeling comfortable to be myself, and, you know, having freedom and autonomy is really important to me. So to be in a role where I've never really fitted into a box, and I wouldn't really want to.
Yeah.
But with that comes quite a challenge, you know, when you're looking for kind of careers and stuff like that, is I suppose a little bit niche in kind of my skills, is what one of my bosses described me as. But I really need to, you know, be in a place where I can be myself. That's so important, and that's how I work, you know, at my best, and how I kind of give my teams the best and customers the best, is if I am who I am. And I believe that for everybody, that they should be comfortable to be, you know, who they want to be and who they believe they are.
Yeah, completely. And just on ADHD now, how would you define ADHD? What is ADHD for those that don't know what it is?
So it's a really negative attachment, actually. So it's attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. It comes under mental health conditions as well. And I think when you say that, there are so many, you know, negative connotations to that, and a lot of stigma attached to it. So traditionally, people believe ADHD is, you know, naughty boy syndrome, or it's because you were raised from single parents. It's only recently kind of been really picked up in females, and girls and females are quite often misdiagnosed as well. So when I talk about ADHD, there's different types of it. But if I bring to life kind of attention deficit, from that, anyone would think, you know, we can't concentrate, and we have got no attention at all. It's actually probably the opposite. Our attention is driven to things that are really appealing to us. So, for example, if you told me that I had to go and do a task every single day and it was repeating, I would just be like, see you later. Or I would go and play the guitar, or, you know, do something interesting, go to the gym. So it's about our attention being refocused on things that are more appealing to us. Our brains are wired differently. And so, for example, dopamine, which is kind of your happy hormone, we don't produce as much of dopamine as a neurotypical brain. So we're more focused around where we can get that dopamine from, what might give us excitement. When I then talk about kind of the hyperactivity side, people think about hyperactivity. Have I lost you?
No, still here.
People talk about hyperactivity thinking, you know, I'll be jumping up and down and really loopy, and things like that. And don't get me wrong, I get really excited, and that's been, you know, throughout my life, I used to get so much more excited than my friends. It'd be something they did that was great, and I would be more excited than they were at the result. But hyperactivity in women, for example, can actually be related to like being overwhelmed. So there's a lot of myths out there around ADHD. There's a lot of misinformation out there. And I think we're raising more awareness of it now. And the last couple of years over the pandemic, more women have kind of become aware of some of the challenges that they're taken out of the more day-to-day routine they're used to. But there's a lot of stigma attached to it, but I believe my diagnosis was really important for me because it's allowed me to really understand myself and know who I am and my strengths and my areas that I need some support with, and feel comfortable about asking for that.
Yeah, when we talk about your diagnosis, and you said before that your son was diagnosed 3 years ago, but before that, so I'd like to just try to follow your journey really. So before your son's diagnosis, what did you think about some of the traits that you had that were different to other people?
I had this sort of, everyone always thought my life was in order. I was a single mum with 2 kids, and I did quite well with, I went on quite a journey. It was actually on the back of a divorce where I went through quite a few, promotions. And on the outside looking in, that looked like I was really successful. I knew it was really calm, all of that, but actually internally, and what was, kind of happening behind closed doors was very chaotic. I would say that I found life hard all of the time. I had to work really, really hard compared to, sort of some of my peers or colleagues, to do what they did seemingly quite, naturally. And that was also the same at school. So, for example, revision, I had a lot of extra help and support to pass my exams, but I couldn't retain information as well as other people could, no matter how hard I revised. And so those were sort of some traits that, I would see. I would kind of, I suppose, put on a bit of a mask to people that weren't very close to me, about maybe how I was coping. People would often sort of say, Becca, how are you a project manager, or how do you get into that when you're basically got all these plans and you're really organised, but at home your life's just chaos, and you're flying from one thing to another and you're always on the go. And it was actually my diagnosis that helped me to understand that, because when I was going through the diagnosis process, I explained that to the doctor at the time, and he said, "Oh, there's a lot of project managers that are diagnosed, and actually, what I bet you're good at is getting teams to work together, aren't you?" And that will always stick with me, because that's actually what I was good at. I wasn't good at putting plans together or telling people what to do. I was good at helping people to feel like people and like their voice was heard. And for example, my planning sessions would be collaborative. I would be getting people that were sat, on the phones answering calls, involved in the project. And it was the feeling of people coming together that I was good at, and hearing voices and listening that I was good at.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Thank you for that. And so that was like the before that your son's diagnosis, and then after you were actually diagnosed. How was the bit in between where you had an inkling because you'd gone through it with your son, but you weren't diagnosed yourself? How was that for yourself?
I kind of felt like, as much as I was 95% sure I was ADHD, I was at that time like 33, 34, and I was kind of like 95% sure it doesn't really matter. I've got this far in my life. What does it matter? And then the more I was kind of reading up about it, and I think understanding myself, the more I was like, I want to be 100% sure. And I actually found that kind of period quite challenging, because I had a really good friend that I worked with who helped me with my son, and I kind of confided with him and said, look, they've kind of pointed out that they think I might be ADHD because this thing's genetic. And he actually helped me loads in the workplace. So, for example, when I was kind of hyper-focused on a piece of work so that I wouldn't hear people asking me questions, he would help me. So he'll be like, "Oh, Becca," or if I was talking and changing the subject, he would kind of prompt me and say, "Just bring it back a bit, take people through your thought process." So that really helped me in the workplace. And it was almost kind of because of that it was like, right, I need to see if I am ADHD, because I'm pretty sure I am, but this might help if I know. So yeah, it was quite a tricky time.
Yeah. And how was your life changed following diagnosis?
So I'm a lot more comfortable in myself now, in terms of I understand why I think the way I do. one thing that ADHD, a lot of people don't realise, is one thing that we struggle with is our emotions. And that would be, so for example, I would literally feel an emotion, whether it's a positive or a negative. And that's caused some challenges in my career. You know, I have an overwhelming sense of justice. So I'm always the one who kind of speaks out, even when everyone thinks the same thing is maybe not right. I would be the one who kind of speak out. And I would also be driven quite a lot by emotion. So since I've had that diagnosis, it's helped me to understand why, you know, and that there's reasons for that. And then also helped me put in place some strategies for some things that maybe have caused me challenges, or maybe where I just need to stop and think, and it doesn't come naturally for me to stop and think. I just want to get my idea out. So it's really helped me. And it's also helped me, I like to raise the awareness of it, because I think there's a lot of people out there struggling and don't know where to turn. I'm quite comfortable talking about it in the hope that it will help others. So yeah, I feel very positive. A lot of people sort of said, you know, what do you need a label for? And it's not a label, it's about helping, like I say, me to understand myself, and most importantly, people I work with or interact with, to know how to understand me as well.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And when you said it before, when you were talking about the diagnosis and the fact that it had so many negative connotations or a negative stigma attached to it, and you speak openly about it now. How do people respond to you when you tell them that you're ADHD, firstly? And then the second question, so there's a two-part question. How do people respond to you? And then secondly, what gave you the courage and confidence to go and speak about it? Because you're on TikTok, you're at LinkedIn, and so, and you speak openly about it.
So first question then. How do people? I don't really know how people respond to that. So this job I'm doing now, I openly told them in the interview, and I think it was really important for me to share that, because it drives a lot of who I am and how I am, and I'm proud of that. There are other areas that, you know, I battle with every single day that aren't so positive, and I think that's important to be honest and open. I think there's probably still a lot of stigma attached to it, and some people, maybe when I talk about it, was like, "Well, what is that?" You know, or okay, that's just another label. And I think that's normal. I think that's exactly why I do what I do, to help to try and turn that tide, so that people do become more understanding, and people can think about how their workplaces or how their interactions day to day can become more inclusive. And if we don't talk about these things, then we'll always stay as we are now. And I don't think that's a great place to be.
No, agree.
Then,
sorry, go on.
About how I found the courage or confidence. Yes. People talk about this a lot, actually. People do sort of say to me about being quite confident, and I don't necessarily think I am. A big thing about ADHD as well is self-esteem, and that can come from a lot of different places. So, you know, as you're younger and you're kind of hearing a lot of negative things about maybe how you act and things like that. But it's a really common challenge for people with ADHD. I think the diagnosis helped me to feel okay about who I was, and, you know, that I'm generally a good person, do things with good intent, that sort of stuff. And like I say, if I can talk about my experiences and help one person, that makes me feel like I've done a good job, and that's all I aim to do. I found being a mum with a child with ADHD, I mean, the amount of negative comments I got, you know, like I say, it's because you're a single mum, or it's because it's your parenting style, ADHD is a new thing, you know, all of this sort of stuff. And I went through a really hard time with my son, you know, for a few years, and did a lot of, you know, exploring nutrition and fitness and stuff like that for him. And I think it was just massively misunderstood then as well. There are so many people out there struggling day to day with children with additional needs that can't get the help and support that they need. And I think, you know, when I was in the boat that I was with my son, if there'd just been that one person that I knew about that was actively talking about it, it would have helped me. So I hope that by talking out, it gives others a route to being more inquisitive and curious, whether that's that they've got ADHD or they know nothing about it. I think it's always good to learn about stuff you don't really know much about and open your mind a bit.
Yeah, no, completely agree. Completely agree. What first steps would you recommend for somebody if they've got an inkling, if they're curious? What first steps would you recommend for somebody?
If they're curious to know more, I would, I'm happy for people to kind of reach out to me and ask me questions. There's loads of good resources out there. Adhd is a website, the ADHD Foundation. They're really, really good. And if you're curious because you think that you might be ADHD, they've got some really good kind of initial tests that you can do to kind of explore it a bit further. There are kind of support groups out there as well that would be good to reach out to. But I think if you see someone in your network and you want to know more, ask. Quite often we get a bit afraid of asking, and finding out more information. But generally, people that are open would, welcome that curiosity, and they might learn something too in the process.
Yeah, perfect. No, thank you for that. What's next for you, Becca?
What's next for me?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I like to live each day as it comes. One thing I don't do a lot is plan ahead. I think life just changes too much. I think I take gratitude in every day and try and help one person a day or make one person smile a day, and that's good. And I'd just like to kind of continue on that. I would definitely like to help more people and do a lot more around leadership, how you can be an inclusive leader. And that's an area, again, that I'm kind of passionate about.
Yeah. Do you see yourself as successful, Becca?
Well, I'm not dating Craig David yet, so maybe not.
Not yet. I mean, he wrote a song about that, isn't it? It's only Monday today, isn't it? Maybe that's what Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday he gets around to that.
Yeah. I just think I'm normal, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm really grateful for the opportunities I've been given. I've had two absolutely incredible leaders in my time that have stayed with me, and even just years later, that how they've influenced me has stayed with me, and how I interact with my teams. I think like they've helped me kind of on this journey. I'm grateful for where I am, the opportunities I've had, and to do what I do.
How do you think your teams would describe you?
I generally get positive feedback that I'm quite fun. And I think people see that I care about them as well. Not someone who's not afraid to challenge.
Yeah, amazing. I love that. And I guess, what are you having for your tea?
Well, actually, there's a lady called Eva who's on LinkedIn, who's a nutritionist. So she does a lot around nutrition. I used her for nutrition help with ADHD, and I was doing a cook along with her for the last few weeks, but I didn't go on Thursday because I was late from work. So I am cooking her recipe, which is chickpea burgers, tonight. I'm hoping they go right without her on the screen. So yeah, I'm not a good cook. I have a tendency to burn things.
No, amazing. So how often do you do that? How often do you cook along with Eva?
She did a nutrition reset for January, so it's finished now. But it was once a week. Yeah.
Amazing. That doesn't mean you're going to go hungry for the other 11 months, does it?
No, I can cook. Basic skills.
Yeah, no, fair dues. No, good. So no, I look forward to hearing. Send us a picture of those chickpea burger things. They sound amazing. And one final question: if people wanted to find out more about you, where would they go? What would they do? What would they find?
They'd find me on LinkedIn. So I'm quite active on LinkedIn, and I share my TikToks on there. So for people that don't have a TikTok account, but if you do have a TikTok account, it's Agile ADHD me, which is where you can find me.
Amazing, amazing. No, thank you for that. And I just want to say thank you so much again for joining me today, talking about your journey, your story. It's been an absolute pleasure to get to know you over the last few weeks. And good luck with everything that you've got going on.
Thank you. What are you having for your tea?
Oh, great question. Not many people ask me that, if I'm honest. And tonight, I fancy a curry tonight. So I think it's going to be a curry. Yeah.
Oh, okay, nice.
A hot curry. Yeah. Start the week strong, and then after that, I'll just be. It'll be just. I've got no idea. But yeah, tonight is a curry. Tonight is a curry. So there you go.
Dinosaurs.
Yeah. Have you had a look in my freezer?
Don't tell Eva that.
No, amazing. No, honestly, Becca, thanks very much, and I'll look forward to chatting again soon.
Thank you.